Hello and welcome to this video on naming molecules, or more correctly, more naming molecules, because this is the second one that I have made. I didn't want to add this to the end of the other video, just to try and keep it neat and tidy and nice and short and crisp, etc. But you are really going to have to understand what was in that first video, because you should be comfortable with the basics of naming molecules using the chain length and functional groups to watch this video. So one thing that we haven't talked about is halogens in molecules, and there are many organic molecules with halogens in them, and they either are there because you started off with the halogen in the starter material, or you're doing some sort of reaction that puts a halogen in the molecule by the end. So we need to know how to name them. So what we do is we generally write them as a prefix. So if I've got this molecule here, then I've got 2 carbons, I've got 1 chlorine, and I'm hoping that you would recognize that because I've got the 2 carbons there, it's an eth, it's a single bond, so it's an ethane, and then we say it's chloroethane. Similarly, if I've now got a fluorine here instead, it becomes fluoroethane. Okay? But sometimes there might be multiples in there, or we just need to know more information about where the functional group is located. So I've put this one up here before, and I've said that this is butene. Well, this is also butene, and I've also said in one of my previous videos that this is actually more correctly butene, and this is but2ene. This is propanol, but this is also propanol, and I've said before that this is more correctly propan1ol, and this is propan2ol. So where do the numbers come from? Well, there are certain rules, okay? First of all, you look for the longest carbon chain in the molecule, going from one end to the other. And then you need to number it so that you have the lowest numbers in the molecule, in the name, at the end. So let's just have a look at these two. So I've got my butene here, and I might number it like this. But I could also number it the opposite way round. But if we follow the rules, then this one is but1ene, because my alkene starts on carbon number 1. But this is but3ene because it starts on carbon number 3. And this one is wrong. So have another look at a molecule. We've got our propanol, and we might number it like this. We might also number it the other way round, but when we come to name it, propan1ol, because the alcohol is coming off of carbon number 1, and we end up with propan3ol, because it's coming off of carbon number 3. But this one is wrong, because you want the lowest number in the name. Sometimes you might get more than one substituent in the molecule. So if they happen to be the same, you can add a multiply, so a di, tri, tetra, and we've come across these before. Carbon dioxide means it's got 2 oxygens, CO2. But what if I had a compound like this? Well, it's an ethane because it's 2 carbons, single bond, and I've got 2 fluorine atoms. So couldn't this just be difluoroethane? Well, it could be, but I've also added in a 1, 1, okay, because they are both on the first carbon. If the substituents are different, then we list them in alphabetical order. So here I've got my ethane backbone again, but I've now got a fluorine and a bromine in there, and it becomes 1 bromo, 2 fluoroethane. So I've labelled this 1 and 2. And there's no arguing then with that particular name. Anybody should be able to draw that from the name because you've labelled it correctly. There are, however, complications because there are some structures or some functional groups that take a precedence over others. And what I want to say for you right now is this is not required at GCSE, okay? But if I gave you this molecule, it's got both a carboxylic acid group and an alcohol group, okay? So it can't be both propanol and propanoic acid. One of them takes precedence, and in this case, it is actually the propanoic acid that takes precedent, and instead of calling this an alcohol, it has this 2-hydroxy because it's 1, 2, 3. The hydroxy, your OH group, is on the second carbon. And finally, I just want to tell you that rings can also exist, but the same rules apply in terms of numbering. So if I've got this 6-membered ring, it looks like a hexagon. And strangely enough, if it had nothing on it, it would be called cyclohexane. But this one here, if we number it in this way, then we get 1, 2, 3 fluoro, cyclo, okay, cyclo, hex 1-ene. Okay, and we can debate whether you actually need that one in there because you've numbered it. So you might find it a 3-fluorocyclohexene or 3-fluorocyclohex-1-ene. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you found it useful, and until next time, bye!